McDowell as David Drake.
Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. I say wade in the water. Why don't you wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the waters. Hello, how y'all? I'm Dave, also a slave. I was born in Edgefield, South Carolina, and they say 1800, but you know, they don't really know. They don't want to tell us because they don't want a slave to know when they was born because they don't want to celebrate nothing. Anyway, I never knew my mother or my father. They took us away from my mother, and I never knew my father. Granny raised us. They called us pickaninnies. We walked around without diapers, just a long skirt on. They fed us in the trough like pigs. But the first owner that I had, Lewis Miles, he saw something in me. And he wanted me to be a potter, to turn on the wheel. So what did I do? Everything. I learned how to cut wood, stack wood. I became a ball boy. We had to go dig the clay out of the ground and dry it. And there was this great big hole in the ground where they dumped the clay. It had a mule that was running around, and this big old thing turned around, and every now and then they pushed something, and out would come these big blocks of clay. My job was to take block and give it to the turner on the wheel. That's what I did. And then, you know, a little while later, he asked me, did I want to do that? I said, yeah, I would love to do that. But he said, you know, it's going to take you a long time to learn how to do that. I said, I got time. So he put me on this thing, and it took me a while. Slavery wasn't easy, okay? Don't you think I was happy? I was not. But as I learned and became what I am now, I started to get into some things that I didn't really know as a young child, but as I got older, Dr. Ludrum, he did something that was really, truly bad for South Carolina. He taught me how to read and write, which was a capital offense. If you teach a slave to read and write, they would kill you. But he taught me. And that I started doing stuff. I started reading and writing and started learning about things that were not where I was. So I'm going to show you a few things today. First thing I got to do is, Miss Christine wanted a bowl. When you work on the plantation, you have a list of things you have to do. And every now and then they come up with something. And the people on the front row, you might get splattered. But if you are, you've been blessed, okay? So here we go. We're gonna make a pot here. We got to make a bowl for Miss Christine. So this is what it is here today. Let me get this wheel going. That old treadle wheel is fun because the power that you have is you. It ain't nobody else. You the power. So I've been working there, and now I'm probably about 15 years old, and I'm starting to be getting pretty good at this thing. And you know, another thing was happening in the plantation. You know, it was Edgefield, but we also call it Potterville because all the potters were there. And then they had these potters would come by, and they would be called the itinerant potters. They were making pots, and they would get paid by the pieces. And guess what happened? Old Dave got to the point where he was pretty good. They didn't need those itinerant potters. I became, and not bragging, I became the cash crop for the whole place. I was making all these jugs and bowls and things. Still a slave, though. Still not knowing where the meal's coming from. Every now and then I got some privileges because I'm the cash crop. I'm making them lots of money. And and another thing was really startling to me. They would give me away as a wedding present. Now, that sounds crazy. I'm giving away as a wedding. Did I go anywhere? No. They gave me away, and then they took the money that I made and gave it to the person who they gave me to. I never got to go nowhere. So I'm learning, and I'm growing, and I'm reading, and I'm starting to do something that's really bad. I'm writing on the jugs. I belong to Mr. Miles, where the oven bakes and the pot bows. That sounds like a couplet. I was angry. Could I show the anger? No. But I wrote it, and I got to thinking, one day somebody will see this. Somebody will see this, and somebody may know something about it. This is a little bowl I'm making for Miss Christie. She gonna put some fruit or something in. I don't know what she's gonna do with it, but got to make it. Because even though I'm on the wheel, making the cash crop for all the pots that they need, I still got to take a shift on the kill. I've still got to take a shift on the other things, So, but I started getting better at this thing. So I started getting better at this thing. Let's get it off of here. There we go. Oh, there it is. So we'll trim it later. Yeah. Thank you. So as who I was getting to be, I started realizing that time, these will outlive me. I started to realize that. And then I started to do things on them. Let's go with a little bigger one this time. Yeah. And I love the feel of the clay. There's something just so nice about the clay that as it passes through your hands, you can do all sort of things with it. So I started getting better at this thing. And then I started writing, like I wrote that thing about I belong to Mr. Miles, oven bakes and the pot bows. But then I started writing something else. Dr. Ludrum had a newspaper called The Hive. And he not only had taught me how to read and write, he taught me how to set type. I'm in there doing all kind of things and listening to all the conversations that's going on, all these men in there, and they were talking about the separation of the states. The newspaper was called The Hive, but the information was called The Nullifier. The North was going to separate from the South. And I was hearing that thing, and I started reading, and I started writing things that I did not even know. I had never been there. I had never seen it, but I was there. And Dr. Ludrum, needless to say, the newspaper didn't do too well. He got run out of town. They didn't hurt him, but they ran him out. They didn't want him around there because he had some bad information. He wanted them to not separate. But I didn't realize how slavery could keep going and was so bad. Now, it wasn't so bad for me. I got to eat. I got clothing every now and then. I got a few extra privileges because I was the cash crop. You hear me? That means everything I did paid them money. Did I see any of it? No. But I did it. And, and what I started to do, and I started to realize slavery designed to keep you down, okay? You don't have no dreams. You don't have no life other than what I tell you to do. But as an artist and as a potter, I started having dreams. I started thinking about what would this do? What would these pots do? How could they live on beyond me? You know, I started to think about that stuff. And I started to do all kind of crazy things with them. And I started to write on them and started to really do other things with the pots. And then one day, Lewis Miles, well, no, let's back up. They gave me away to his daughter as a wedding present. I just laughed because I knew I wasn't going nowhere, but every time I made the pottery, she got the money. You know, that's how that thing worked out. And gave me away. So he bet me that I couldn't make a jar from the table this big. And when he saw it, he said, it's going to break. Handle's going to break off. And I stepped out of myself and told him, no, it ain't. It'll be there forever. I don't know if it's still there or not, but I did it. I did it. So I kept on making pots. And then there was a westward expansion. Some place called Texas had opened up. And they wanted to send some of the slaves out to the Texas. I wasn't one of them, but I was married, Liddy. I had a wife, I had 2 children. They took them out there. They sold my wife, they took her and the boys to Texas. I never got to see them again. I wrote, I wonder where all my kin and relation, friendship of all in every nation. It was a salutation. It was a rebellion. It was an anger without being visible. They took my wife, they took my children. I'm still there by myself. I'm still the cash crop. And in some ways it made me feel good. Did I want to be free? Yes, I wanted to be free. But this was holding me because I made the cash for the whole place. I was the it person at the plantation. And I stayed with it, But the key thing about it, what I learned, to keep doing your work, keep living, keep trying to do what it is that you do to get better at your job. And for me, it was the wheel. Making the clay, firing the pots, making the glazes. That was another thing that started. It was a guy came from England. His name was Wedgwood, yeah. He came from England and he found some white clay near that area. And he started making porcelain. And then we started to use the white clay in a way to make a glaze with, you know. And boy, did I like that. And then there was something else they were doing too. It was called, they started making these things like these face jugs. I never made no face jugs. I never did. But I heard about it, you know. I was born in this country. I didn't come from Africa, but there were people who came. I knew about a ship called the Wanderer. I heard the stories about how they slipped that ship, how a bet was made that I can, you know, the slavery had been outlawed in the United States for like 20 years, but they were still sneaking people here. I wasn't one of them. I was born here. But anyway, they snuck some of these people here, and they didn't separate them. They stayed together. And so when they came, they brought all the ideas, all the customs, all the things that they did, and they started making face jugs. I saw it. I never made one because, it was not something I knew about. But I get you. Yeah. You've been blessed. You've been blessed. But anyway, so they started making the face jugs. I saw them, but I never make them because, like I said, I was the cash crop. They needed jugs. They needed storage vessels. They needed stuff to pickle in. They needed stuff to put the meat in. They didn't need face jugs, but I saw them, and I liked it. I appreciated it. And then, I heard talk about Jesus, because missionaries coming here trying to tell us we need to be a good slave, and I can read the Bible. I read about Moses leading the children out from bondage, and they talking, you need to be a good slave. No, I read it in the Bible. So, there was always anger in me. I used the anger to keep doing the dirty work that I had to do. But I was loving it. I was loving doing it. And I kept doing it. I tell you what I really liked to do was to look in that kiln and see those pots change from dark to light to golden. And I would love that. And I noticed that change. Well, while I'm looking at those pots changing, I'm thinking about changes in me. I'm thinking about being and becoming more of a human being than a slave. You don't want a slave to know anything about his life. You don't want him to know anything about the world. But I did. I read. Every time a piece of paper would come into that place, I would read it. And after Dr. Ludgum newspaper closed, I would sneak around and find anything I could read about, find any piece of paper. I knew that the South was talking about slipping away from the North. I knew that. But I didn't think it was ever going to happen because we've been singing that for years. Oh, freedom. We've been singing that song for years, but it had never come yet. I didn't think I'd live to see it. Then one day it did happen. Somebody from the South fired on the North. I heard about it. It was at Fort Sumter. I heard about it. But guess what? I stayed at the wheel because I wasn't free yet. They hadn't freed us. They were talking about Lincoln up in Washington freeing the slaves. I didn't know if that was ever going to happen. But I was hoping it did. We've been singing and praying and having what they call watch night services. And I went, but I wasn't sure that it was ever going to happen. I mean, we've been slaves for all this time. Why are you going to free us? Well, some people said it was about states' rights, the rights of the white people that owned us to how they do us how they wanted to. And then the other people from up north, some of them, they didn't want us to be free. They were just fighting because they didn't want the Union to be separated. I didn't know. To me, it was just white man stuff. They always doing something, talking something. And so black people just stayed out the way, right? Just quiet. You think black people stupid? No, they're not stupid. They know how to trick the white man. That's where all that trickster stuff come from. We pretend that we shuffle and stuff. We learn how to slow the work down. We learn how to break. We learn how to do all kind of crazy things to make things better for ourselves. So I'm still on the wheel. So finally, freedom does come. And one day, somebody was hollering, "Hey, freedom done come." I said, "Well, yeah, I'm looking for it." He said, "You free now." I say, "What? You mean that you're free? You don't have to listen to these people no more?" "No, you be free." And what did freedom bring me? Not much. I'm unemployed. I don't have nowhere to eat. I don't have a wheel. I don't have clay. I don't have anything. So he kept me on for a while. And I stayed on for a while, and I took his name, the Drake name. I took that name a little bit. And, and I still made pots, and I still remembered something. I remembered something. I'm going to show you in just a minute. I remembered that I could read and write, that I could think for myself, that I didn't have to listen to what they said. I didn't have to listen to the stuff that slaves are animals, slaves are not people. I was a person. I knew how to do things. I didn't need them. So what I did was I made more pots. I kept going for a while. And then one day, after a while, I've been writing for a while, but I've been writing on the pots. What did I write? Oh, give me silver, give me gold. They not good for your soul. Or Ferris missed one trick better than this. Can you spare a kiss? So I started writing on the pots. And what I would do, because it was wrong, but because we were a small place in Edgefield, South Carolina, a little community, nobody really said anything about that slave, Dave, writing on the pots. Nobody said anything. I would always do something that try to keep the white folks happy. I would sign LM, and that's Lewis Masters. I would sign him first, and then I would do this. I'll show you. I would do this here. There we go. I got a stick like that. I wrote my name. I signed the date. I knew, and I was telling the world, I was here. And I did that for a while, and I loved it. So it's about time, dinner time. Dave's got to go now. So, and why does Dave sing, Save the Old Song? Why does he sing? The way of connecting to the ancestors. The way of making me feel good, like I'm somebody. And it's also a protest. Soon I will be done with the troubles of this world. The troubles of this world. The troubles of this world. Soon I will be done with the troubles of this world. I'm going home to live with my Lord. So Dave's done. That's it for Dave. He's gone. He had to go eat. Old Dave is gone. There we got Jim. So, now what about this Jim? What can we tell about Jim? Well, first of all, I was born in 1945. I'm old. But somebody said, first of all, I got to tell you, old people got stories. You know that, don't you? Y'all know that. We got stories. So how can you get up there and talk in front of all these people? You ain't never seen these people before? No, I haven't. But they my family. I can talk to. Well, anyway, it was Negro History Week. It was 1954, and I was in the third grade, and Miss Williams made us put on made the boys put on a T-shirt and this thing, shorts, and it was Negro History Week, So my job was to get up on the stage and put my foot on the box and put my hand up. I am Joe Lewis, heavyweight champion of the world. Well, when I put my hand up, my pants fell down in front of 500 people. that thing she gave me, I had never seen. It was a jockey strap. I didn't put it on. I didn't know what it was. So they were laughing. They were laughing like you laughing now, and it just made me feel good. I hammed it up. I didn't have nothing to show, but guess what? Since then, I ain't scared to talk to people. Sometimes my wife wants me to shut up, but I can't help it. But anyway, So that's one story. So then I think I was 18 months old. You know how people tell stories on you when you get older? You don't want to hear them stories. Well, I was in a sandbox playing with a substance that I thought was clay. It had a smell to it. I loved it. You know what it was, don't you? I loved it ever since. So we grew. I mean, the feeling of it, just ushiness, I just loved it. But anyway, let's go jump forward a few years more. I'm in grade school, and a white teacher would come to school every month. They would come and bring us clay, about a little ball like that. Now, everybody else was making snakes and weird stuff. She gave us popsicle sticks. I carved a bird on a rock. And everybody going around saying, Jimmy's crazy, Jimmy's crazy, Jimmy's crazy. So everybody's getting ready to walk out the class. She grabbed me in my chest. She said, you are an artist. I'm going to tell every teacher in this school so you do not fall into that BS that's going on. So ever since then, I had to do art projects and stuff all the time. So I always thought, as a troubled teenager, I thought I was retarded because I didn't learn like everybody else learned. They didn't test. I had a hearing problem. I went all the way through high school, and Miss Williams would stand up there in front of the history class going, I couldn't hear her. So when it came time to graduate, that credit was missing. My father said, you going to summer school? I said, no, I ain't. He said, you grown now, you leaving home. I said, okay. So I went and joined the Job Corps, and they sent me to Kentucky. I was gone away from home for 5 years before I came back, because you know that thing about the old bull and the young bull? You know, we were clashing, so I didn't go home. My father was an artist. So let's jump forward again. I'm 27 years old. I had went to a military high school in Dunbar in Washington, D.C., so I knew it, left face, right face, all that. I knew it. So I joined the service because I was full of John Wayne. I wanted to go blow something up. I wanted to shoot something. So I got on the bus and we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and the Sergeant Pye got on, but he said, who knows the military arms? He said, you're in charge of 65 guys. So that means I had to go get their shots, I had to get their haircuts, I had to teach them how to make their bed. We had 4 guys that peed in the bed every day. They'd never been away from home. I had to do everything. And I got through basic, and so they sent me to Germany. Now here comes another story. There was a gang called the Baden-Meinhof gang blowing up army bases. So the sergeant of the detail, you're on from 12 to 6. He gave me M16, he gave me 2 rounds. You put one in the gun, but not in the barrel, and put one in your pocket. The general order is no one to come in here after 12 o'clock. No one. Didn't say call anybody, nothing. No one comes in the door. Well, at 12:02, this pretty Carmen Gear comes up to the gate, slick looking thing, little short black man dressed up and everything. He says he wants to come in. And I told him the general order. And he says, I'm coming in. I pulled the gun up and I said, shh. If you take another step, sir, I'll have to shoot you, send a mass, sir. That's the most dangerous thing in the world, a GI with an order with no way out. He left. He left because he knew I was going to shoot his butt. The next morning, I'm in the office, and they said, what happened? I said, well, this guy came up, and he wanted to come in. I wouldn't let him in. And then they saw that I was getting mad. They said, get out of here. So I'm on the other side of the door. So I heard the captain say, what does McDowell do in his spare time? Does he do drugs? No. Does he have chase girls? No. What does he do? He goes in the craft shop. What? He goes in the craft shop. He makes things. He teaches people how to do things in the craft shop. Send him there all the time. Because he don't need to be on the gate. Not only did they put me in the craft shop, they didn't want me around any ammo at all. None. No bombs, no grenades, anything that had to do with war, they didn't want me around because he would follow the order. So let's jump forward a little bit. I was wanting to get on this wheel, but there's nobody there to show me. So they said, in Nuremberg, I live in a little town called Ansbach. In Nuremberg, there's about 20 miles away. You get on the train. There's potters down there. I was walking down the street in Nuremberg, and I saw these potters, and I went in there, and I said, and I pantomimed it. I know the word 9. They said 9 3 times. And then the fourth time I said, somebody came out the back room with a broom. Oh, man. Now I'm thinking, you prejudiced people. And I heard my father say, you want to learn it? You'll do what they say. So guess what I did? I swept the studio 3 Saturdays in a row. I mean, I was really good. I knew how to clean because my father was in the Navy. He knew how to clean. So after that, one day I came in, they were firing a kill out back, salt kill. They were teaching me and they got me on the wheel. But what they really liked about me, I don't smoke or drink to this day. But the Army gives you a ration. You can buy 3 bottles of Jim Beam and 4 cartons of cigarette. So one day I showed up with 3 bottles of Jim Beam and 4 cartons of cigarette. You would have thought I was God's second gift to mankind. Jesus was coming back. They loved me, and then they taught me how to do pottery better. They even taught me how to go to the places around there. Was a place called Erlangen that had wood, scrap wood that was for free. They give you that. And I was making instruments, guitars and banjos. Guitars and dulcimers. So my Army experience was pretty good. So one more story. So I come back to the States, and I was in the Army 8 years. They wanted me to stay in Germany. I wanted to stay in Germany, but they wanted to send me to Hinesville, Georgia, which was 25 miles from Americus, Georgia, with the heart of the Ku Klux Klan. There ain't no way I'm doing this. I'm getting out. So I go back to Johnstown, PA. That's where my ex-wife was. So I'm looking around for pottery lessons. And Miss Maggie Monahan, they owned a big sign company in town. She taught pottery in her basement. She had 3 wheels down there. And I asked her, would she teach me? She said she was hesitant because she had these little girls, they were, how little teenage girls. And she said, I'm afraid you might want to hit on them. I said, I don't want nothing to do with them. I came to learn pottery. So she took me on 8 weeks. It took me 8 weeks to learn how to center and open the clay. 8 weeks, a Tuesday and a Thursday. 8 weeks, that's it. I didn't keep nothing. So this summer came, and then they were getting ready to go to school for the summer. Well, they was talking about Alfred. Y'all know what Alfred is? Alfred is the Mecca of pottery. If you want to learn anything about pottery, you go to Alfred, because Alfred is big money, too. I looked around in the Ceramic Monthly magazine. I found a guy named David Robinson. He was in a little town called Ware, New Hampshire. I went there for 1 week. David taught me so much about pottery. I ended up staying 2, and 45 years later, I can still do what David taught me. He was really good. So I've been doing that ever since. Now, you're seeing some of my jugs up here. And what's happened to me, and Jan and I, well, it scared the heck out of me because I've been discovered. Metropolitan Museum of Art is buying some pieces for me. Wait a minute, and the one in D.C., the Black Museum, they buying some pieces too. In fact, she's coming to our house, and they're going to take it on the world too. Look at this ugly stuff. Look at that. But the thing about it is, I am the idiot, I call myself the idiot, who stayed with this. Even when I wasn't selling a dime. If you came to me at a craft show and liked my pot, I'd give it to you. Yeah. Jan came in my, they said, honey, we got a mortgage. You can't be doing that. Can't be doing that. So what's going on now? I'm almost 80 years old now. I still love it. I still love doing it. I love sharing with you the stories. And we're a continuation from way back. I cannot stop. I must tell the story of my people who came here in chains. The boat left the shore in Africa, and before it got here, 200 people were dead. They jumped overboard. They threw them overboard. I'm a survivor. I am a product of those people who came here. Not only did they survive, they thrived. And so when I do what I do, I'm on the backs of them who came before me, and I just love it. If you guys got any questions or comments or criticism, now's your time. Anybody got something to say? No. I can't hear you.
Who was the gentleman that driving the Carmen Gia?
Oh, tell him who the man driving.
driving that Carmen gear?
Who?
Who drove the Carmen gear, wanted to get in the base?
It was a general. It was a general. It was a general from the 2nd Army Corps, and they reamed him a new behind. Because I told him the order, he still was going to come in. You know, and that was the one time in my life where I knew how dangerous it is to be in the Army and have an order. I think about that today. I almost killed that man. Had he taken one more step, then I would have shot him. And wait a minute, there is a God. There's an end to this story. 2 weeks later, someone stole a tank and drove through the gate downtown. He was having a girlfriend problem. And they told, the police officer said, if you don't get out of that tank, we're going to blow you up. So he got out, you know. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your kiln?
Can I do what?
The name of your kiln?
The name of my kiln, Sarah and George Rowland are right here. They were the former owners. They owned Village Pottery. George helped me build this kiln. This kiln is the most amazing kiln I ever did. It fires so evenly. It's 13 hours from 0 to cone 10, which is 2,600 degrees. The other day, I was firing the kiln, and I heard George and I heard Sarah in my ear. Jim, it's heat work. Heat work. The work of the heat must be on the pots to affect the cones. And so when heat working, walk away. Mike, you know that too. Leave it alone. You set the damper, you set everything, you set the fire, you walk away. And George don't know it, but there's 2 people that want to kill like mine. So I don't know if we're going to travel or not. Yes, ma'am. Talk loud.
Are those forms you just made historical forms?
Are the forms you made historical forms?
Are the forms I made historical forms? This pottery was basic, just regular pots. They weren't fancy. They were quite a bit bigger, and they used it for storage. And so they are historical in the sense that, you know, what they used, they didn't have refrigeration, so they had to be able to, see, a pot like this would have a lid in it. If it was bigger, they would sauerkraut or salt it and stuff like that. So they're historical, but I've taken it, with the face jug, I've taken the different tribes and the different things. I was at school this is another story coming. I was at school at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and there was a white potter there. His name was David Hovland. Now, his wife was the granddaughter of Alfred Benz, who's the founder of Alfred University. So David got me one day, said, Jim, you're going to be the only nigger potter there. I said, what, Dave? David was cool. He liked black people. He loved, but he used that word. I said, what do you mean? He said, first of all, these idiots are coming to the wood fire and bringing plywood. What? Plywood. And he said, they don't want to take a shift that no one else wants. They won't bring food, and they don't want to do what the people want them to do. I'll do it. So guess what? I learned how to bring wood. I had a girlfriend at the time whose father owned a sawmill. In fact, the wood came from down here. They used it in Hickory to make furniture. And I took the truck up to the dump thing, and they could fill up a truck with killed dry wood for $5. I showed up at a firing, and they were stalled at 1,000 degrees. They backed the truck up there and started dumping it. The pyrometer just went over the top. I took the shift no one else wanted, which means 12 to 6. I also bought food. I said, where's the food? Bag of tater chips. That ain't no food. George will tell you. I showed up at the thing. I bought some baby lima beans, a smoked turkey, and cornbread. You know, you got to have some food here. You know, so my whole life has been about exposing the inequities. I don't have to say it. I don't tell you nothing. I show it, my anger is right there, because I'm angry. Yes, sir.
Can you share just a couple of the messages that you put on your pots? Because you write on your pots.
Yeah. I write on the back of my pots anti-slavery things and stuff like that. I gotta tell you something. You know this guy who died, the last pope? Mm-hmm. I'm not Catholic. I'm Baptist to the core. I was moved by this guy. I really loved him. I'm making a face jug to honor him. with the hat and cross and his hands out like this. So on the back of my jugs, I write, some of them, let's see. I just did Fannie Lou Hamer. Y'all know who Fannie Lou Hamer? Civil rights. I just finished her. And Fannie Lou Hamer is talking about, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know? so I do it. This one scared me. You talk about anger. When Trayvon Martin got killed, I was so angry. I wanted to punch somebody. I wanted to get somebody. So I made the jug about this big, and I cut it out, and I put a face inside of it, and I made the little thing of something that looked like a hood. And because it scared me, Jan will tell you, I hid it. I didn't want nobody to see it. Jan dug it out and said, those holes that you put the strings in them, it's going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art now. Ain't that something? So I've learned to channel anger. Channel it. Use it. You know, because even though I'm black, I look like a peaceful black man. I am not. I want to burn something. I want to hit something. When you were singing your songs, I want you to get down and dirty. You know, but God in his mercy allowed me to do this. And there is a God. You know, and part of my thing is being a Baptist minister, which I'm licensed and ordained, is to realize that where can I go where he is not? I can't. He's with me all the time. This is the last story. I ain't telling no more. My father and mother broke up. He was in the Navy. And when he came home, my mother ran away with another guy. I remember I was 5 years old. Granny was holding me. She was going in the car with another guy. And so he took us on the Goonie Bird, DC-3. I remember flying the DC-3 to DC. My dad put us in a hotel, travel, whatever. And he went out. I don't know why he went out, but he went to a bar. And he was telling this guy named Chambers his situation. And he said, boy, come on to my house. My mother will take care of you. So my dad got all of us, me, Michael, and Peggy, and we went over to Miss Chambers' house. Miss Chambers lived in one of the nastiest, roughest, dirtiest places in D.C. But around her house, you dare not break a bottle. You dare not cuss. She was a saint. She took us in, and she raised us, and she helped us till my dad and my mother got together. And I was troubled, and my father they just couldn't handle me. I would run away from home and, you know, all this stupid stuff. So several times he said, you go with Miss Chambers. She taught me songs of the church. She taught me love. She showed me unconditional love. And when she died, I wanted to beat God up. I wanted to get God. So I went down in the basement, went in the coal bin, and slammed the door. I ain't going to have nothing to do with you, God. You took the one person that I love. And a voice in my heart said, Jimmy, you can't get away from me. I'm inside of you. And ever since then, I realized that there is a God. I don't care what people say about hugging trees or the whales and all that stuff. There is a God, and I use him, and he uses me. Thank you, guys.